This video was published by mbkpinternational.com. In this video, we're going to talk about our XPC19 Pro paper cutter and how to check for if you have a complete power loss, what the reason is. Most common, not necessarily most common, but one thing you do realize if you just got the machine, you do have an on-off switch here, so you just want to make sure it's turned on. Another obvious thing is make sure it's got power. A lot of people plug in into stuff and they don't got power. It could have kicked a breaker. So the best thing I would tell you to do is check your outlet with another electrical device, unplug the cutter from whatever outlet you have it in, and plug some other electrical device into it just to make sure that's a working outlet and you do have power. If all that's good, your on-off switch is on, you do have power, you check that. The next thing I would go to is this emergency stop. A lot of times people accidentally bump it and it will turn off the cutter. All lights will be off. You'll see no lights anywhere. Same thing with the on-off switch. And all you do on that is you just twist it clockwise until it pops back out. So that would take care of that. Another rare instance, it doesn't happen often, but if you have a bad emergency stop button, it could cause the same thing. The button's bad, so it just cuts off the cutter, and it even releasing it still doesn't turn it on. The button would need to be replaced. That's rare, but it does happen. And then another thing is a fuse. If you don't have no lights on this at all, this is one light that could be on if everything else up. If you have no lights on at all, another possibility is a fuse here, and I'll go ahead and do that here. You'd want to unplug it and you just take a flat screwdriver, and there's a little groove there. You just put it in there, and I'm just going to pry it like that and just pop out this tray here. This is the main fuse for the cutter, and there's two fuses in here. You'll have a spare unless you've already used it, and you'll have the one that's being used. The one being used is up front, and you can just pop it out. It's a 30 amp fuse, and you want to make sure it's not milliamp. We do sell fuses, so if you need extra fuses, you can purchase it off us, but it is 30 amp, not milliamp. It's actual 30 amps. And you can look in there to see if it's burnt. If just to be safe, you can just take the other one out and check it too, and switch them. Put the other one in front and put this one in. And if it's bad, throw it away. But if you're not sure, just go ahead and put it back into the tray, and you just slide it in, back in there, and then just plug it back in and see if it was the fuse. You'll probably know if it's the fuse when you take out the old one and see if it was burnt or not. And let's see here. Okay, and if you did blow the main fuse, you'll want to look at our video on why it blew. A lot of times it's because you're cutting too much. Like some people put two stacks side by side. Another reason is your blade is dull. You need to replace your dull blade, because it will get dull and you'll try to go through it and it will stop and it will just pop the fuse. And the reason the fuse there is to protect the motherboard so it doesn't fry the motherboard, and you have to replace that, which is a lot more expensive, obviously. So you want to check your cutting procedure. Another thing is people will do a cut and they'll let go of the buttons and it will stop on them, and then they'll go to cut again. And this thing has to have a little momentum to get going. So if your blade's ever down, you do never want to start a cut from that position. You always want to reverse it first, because if you try to cut now, and if I had paper in there, if it's halfway through a stack or something, and I try to cut now, it would just most likely just hum and then pop a fuse. So you always want to start a cut or finish a cut if you accidentally stopped it. Reverse it by the two center buttons, get it back to the top, and just start it over again. You always want to start it from the top. And you hold the buttons. You can release it when the blade starts coming back up, or if you see something unsafe. And that's something you'd also want to watch our video on proper cutting procedures and stuff like that, and what to do if you're blowing fuses a lot. If it happens again to you, you blow another fuse. And the last thing is, if you lose all power and this light is still on here, everything's off, but this light is on, that's usually the fuse on the motherboard. And you'd want to check your motherboard fuse on that. That one's a 2 amp. 30 amp for the back, 2 amp for the motherboard. And to do that, we have a video on that, but you have to remove this electronics compartment, and you'd want to unplug it from power and get in there, and it's just replace the fuse on the motherboard. Not hard to do, just you have to get into here. That's basically it. Just want to go over those things. Most common thing is this emergency stop, or that you blew a fuse, main fuse. And this video was published by mbkpinternational.com.